When my son's fiancée Victoria sneered at me that I was just a bitter old widow who doesn't belong in modern homes, while blocking me from entering their stunning new $2.3 million estate in Westlake Village, she had no idea she was dismissing Elena Rodriguez, the founder and principal owner of Meridian Property Holdings, the real estate empire that controlled the master-planned community where their dream house was built, owned the luxury apartment complexes where Victoria's friends rented their overpriced units, held the commercial leases for the boutique shopping centers where she spent her trust fund money, and whose development subsidiary had been quietly financing the mortgage-backed securities that enabled their home purchase through a network of shadow banking relationships, all while she dismissed me as a sad elderly woman who needs to accept that families grow and change, never knowing that her cruel exclusion would cost them their $2.3 million dream home, destroy her social standing among Westlake Village's elite families, and force them to literally beg for a basic rental apartment in the same community where they once planned to host engagement parties and exclusive social gatherings. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment about your worst experience with future family members who treated you like you were disposable, and subscribe, because you won't believe what happens when a cruel fiancé discovers that the irrelevant old woman she's trying to exclude actually owns the entire luxury community where she's planning to build her perfect life. My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm 7, and this story begins on March 2, when I returned from what my son Miguel thought was just another boring doctor's appointment where she'll probably get confused about her medications again, but was actually a closed-door acquisition meeting with Meridian Property Holdings Investment Committee at our Century City headquarters, where I'd been finalizing the purchase strategy for 3 additional luxury developments throughout Los Angeles County that would either provide promising young families with beautiful homes and community stability, or systematically exclude people whose character failures made them unworthy of residence in neighborhoods that prioritized family values, community respect, and intergenerational harmony over material wealth and social status. The modest 2-bedroom craftsman bungalow in Pasadena's Bungalow Heaven neighborhood, where I've lived for the past 15 years, appears to visitors the simple retirement home of a widowed former elementary school teacher who survives on Social Security and the occasional financial assistance that my family provides out of duty rather than genuine affection. The carefully maintained vegetable garden in my backyard, featuring tomatoes, pepper, and herbs that I tend with tools from Harbor Freight, suggests someone whose greatest pleasure comes from growing her own food, because purchasing organic produce at Whole Foods would strain a fixed income that barely covers property taxes and basic utilities. The collection of library books about gardening and local history that line my modest bookshelves, all borrowed rather than purchased to save money, reinforces the narrative of careful budget management and intellectual curiosity that doesn't extend beyond community college continuing education classes and senior citizen discount programs. The vintage furniture that I've maintained since my late husband Carlos passed away 15 years ago tells a story of sentimental attachment rather than the strategic choice to maintain appearances while protecting the real estate empire that my family has never suspected exists beneath elementary school teacher grandmother's humble retirement lifestyle. My daily routine, as observed by Miguel during his increasingly brief and dutiful visits, perfectly reinforces every assumption about limited resources and technological confusion that prevents elderly people from understanding modern business operations and real estate investment strategy. He sees me clipping coupons at my kitchen table each Sunday morning, organizing them in a recipe box that Carlos built in the end, carefully planning grocery shopping trips around senior citizen discount days and promotional sales that suggest someone whose financial decisions revolve around saving 50 cents on canned goods and generic medications. The 2009 Toyota Camry that I drive, with its faded paint from California sun exposure and the slight dent in the rear bumper from a minor parking lot encounter 3 years ago, reinforces Miguel's comfortable assumption that I'm living on the financial margins while depending on family assistance for major expenses like automotive repairs, medical bills, and home maintenance projects that exceed my supposed limited budget and technological understanding. What my son Miguel sees during his monthly visits is exactly what I've cultivated since Carlos's death: A sweet but slightly overwhelmed elderly woman who struggles with smartphones, needs help understanding insurance paperwork that grows more complicated every year, and whose greatest social activities involve volunteering at the Pasadena Public Library and organizing potluck dinners with other retired teachers who share stories about the good old days when students showed respect and families stayed together. The image of gentle abuela Elena, with her sensible shoes from Payless and reading glasses that she constantly misplaces, has served me perfectly in maintaining privacy while protecting the real estate empire that Miguel and his fiancée Victoria have never suspected determines their housing options, neighborhood access, and social opportunities throughout Southern California's most desirable community. The apartment that Miguel dismisses as barely adequate for an elderly woman living alone actually serves as my private command center for operations that extend far beyond retirement activities and community volunteer. The modest living room with its cheerful displays of family photos, Miguel's UCLA graduation, his sister Carmen's wedding in San Diego, and children I see during major holidays when family obligations require their parents to demonstrate appropriate intergenerational respect, conceals sophisticated business coordination systems where I manage real estate portfolio, oversee development projects in 12 California counties, and direct the property investment networks that have made me one of the West Coast's most influential but invisible real estate leaders. The family photos themselves tell a carefully curated story of a grandmother whose greatest pride comes from her successful children who've made something of themselves in the modern world despite their humble beginnings as the children of an elementary school teacher and a municipal maintenance worker. Miguel's business degree from UCLA hangs in a modest frame next to Carmen's nursing certification, both positioned where visitors can see them immediately upon entering my living room. These displays reinforce the narrative that I'm an elderly relative whose vicarious pride and accomplishments represents the closest she'll ever come to understanding the business and real estate worlds that her educated children navigate with such impressive expertise and professional sophistication. What Miguel has never suspected is that the modest lifestyle and occasional request assistance with technology aren't because I'm incapable of understanding modern real estate markets and property investment strategies. I created most of the systems that determine housing availability and neighborhood development throughout Southern California. The sophisticated real estate investment infrastructure, hidden throughout my Craftsman bungalow, represents 32 years of systematic development designed to maintain complete operational effectiveness, while protecting my privacy and enabling the kind of long-term strategic planning that requires absolute separation. My public identity as a confused retiree, and my professional role as principal owner of one of California's most influential property development and investment organizations. Behind the false wall in my converted garage, accessible through a biometric scanner disguised as Carlos's old toolbox, Craftsman model he purchased in 1987, and used for decades of home improvement projects, lies a command center with enterprise-grade technology that rivals what major real estate investment trusts use for their most sophisticated property analysis and market prediction operation. The multiple monitor displays show real-time data streams from property markets throughout Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura, and Riverside counties, including housing inventory levels, demographic migration pattern, and zoning development proposals that determine which neighborhoods experience appreciation and which face systematic decline due to infrastructure planning and community investment decisions. The quantum-encrypted communication systems that connect me to development teams, city planning officials, and construction companies throughout Southern California operate on secure networks that government agencies use for sensitive infrastructure coordination and economic development planning. The property analysis algorithms that process over 15,000 daily real estate transactions while identifying investment opportunities, development potential, and community stability indicators provide Meridian Property Holdings with competitive advantage worth hundreds of millions of dollars in strategic decision-making and market timing that determines which properties appreciate rapidly and which neighborhoods experience controlled gentrification that benefits existing residents while attracting compatible new families. But perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of my hidden real estate operations is the community character assessment system that evaluates how potential residents treat elderly neighbors, demonstrate family loyalty, and contribute to intergenerational community stability as primary indicators of their suitability for residents in neighborhoods that prioritize long-term social cohesion over rapid turnover and profit maximization. This system, which I personally designed after observing how traditional property management focused only on credit scores and income verification, while ignoring character traits that determine neighborhood quality and community stability, analyzes family relationship patterns, elderly care decisions, and community involvement indicators to create comprehensive character profiles that determine eligibility for residence in Meridian Property Holdings, premium developments, and managed community. Meridian Property Holdings operates as a vertically integrated real estate investment and development organization that controls every aspect of property development, from initial land acquisition, through construction management, to long-term community oversight and resident services. Our corporate structure, carefully designed to maintain both operational efficiency and regulatory compliance across multiple California jurisdictions, includes 23 subsidiary companies that provide specialized services to property developers, community association, commercial real estate investors, and residential property management organizations throughout the greater Los Angeles metropolitan area and extending north through Ventura County and south into Orange County's most desirable communities. Our primary development division, Meridian Community Builders, houses the architectural planning and construction management infrastructure that has created over 40 master-planned communities throughout Southern California, each designed to promote multi-generational family stability, elderly respect, and the kind of community involvement that builds social capital and neighborhood cohesion, rather than simply maximizing property values through rapid appreciation and speculative investment that benefits developers while displacing existing residents and destroying community character. The luxury housing developments that we've created throughout Westlake Village, Calabasas, Manhattan Beach, Palos Verdes, and Newport Beach incorporate design principles that encourage intergenerational interaction, community gathering spaces, and architectural features that accommodate aging in place while maintaining property values and aesthetic appeal that attracts young families committed to long-term residence and community investment, rather than short-term speculation and property flipping. Our property management division, Meridian Residential Services, provides comprehensive community oversight for over 280 residential developments throughout Southern California, including homeowners association management, community event coordination, and resident services that maintain property values while building social connections and mutual support networks that enable neighborhoods to thrive through economic changes and demographic transitions that might otherwise destabilize community cohesion and property appreciation. The commercial real estate portfolio that Meridian Property Holdings has assembled throughout Los Angeles and Orange counties includes shopping centers, office complexes, and mixed-use developments that provide essential services and employment opportunities for the residential communities we've developed, creating integrated economic ecosystems that support family stability and community prosperity, rather than extracting wealth through rent maximization and tenant displacements strategies that benefit property owners while impoverishing local residents and small business operators. But the most strategically important aspect of our operations is the affordable housing development network that helps working-class families access homeownership opportunities in communities with excellent schools, safe neighborhoods, and proximity to employment centers that enable economic mobility and generational wealth building. Our specialized financing programs, coordinated through partnerships with community banks and credit unions, provide first-time homebuyers with favorable mortgage terms and down payment assistance that make homeownership possible for families whose character and community commitment predict long-term neighborhood stability and positive contribution to community development. The relationships I've developed with city planning commissioners, county supervisors, and state housing officials over 32 years of strategic community involvement provide Meridian Property Holdings with policy influence that shapes zoning decisions, infrastructure development, and affordable housing requirements throughout Southern California. My quarterly consultations with regional planning authorities ensure that our development projects remain compliant with evolving environmental regulations while influencing the creation of policies that promote sustainable growth and community stability rather than speculative development that benefits investors while displacing existing residents and destroying neighborhood character. The policy recommendations that I provide to city councils throughout Los Angeles and Orange counties have been incorporated into municipal codes that require character assessment and community involvement verification for large-scale development projects, ensuring that neighborhood changes benefit existing residents while attracting compatible new families who demonstrate commitment to intergenerational respect and community contribution, rather than simply pursuing property appreciation and lifestyle consumption. The strategic intelligence capabilities that I coordinate through partnerships with regional economic development organizations enable Meridian Property Holdings to identify and prevent systematic community disruption from speculative investors, predatory development, and the kind of rapid gentrification that displaces longtime residents while destroying the social networks and cultural heritage that give neighborhoods their character and stability. The academic research partnerships that I maintain with urban planning departments at UCLA, USC, Cal Poly Pomona, and UC Irvine provide theoretical foundations for our practical innovations in community-centered development and character-based resident selection. The graduate students and faculty researchers who contribute to our community design strategies through university consulting agreements have no idea that their work contributes to a privately owned real estate empire, believing instead that they're participating in academic research projects funded by anonymous foundation grants and community development initiatives. The master-planned community in Westlake Village, where Miguel and Victoria purchased their $2.3 million dream home, represents one of Meridian Property Holdings' most successful experiments in character-based community development and intergenerational neighborhood design. The development, which we completed in 2019, after 4 years of careful planning and construction, incorporates architectural features and community amenities specifically designed to encourage family gatherings, elderly inclusion, and the kind of social interaction that builds lasting neighborhoods, rather than simply providing luxury housing for affluent families who prioritize privacy and social exclusion over community involvement and mutual support. The Spanish colonial revival architecture that characterizes the development's 340 homes reflects California's cultural heritage while providing modern amenities and accessibility features that accommodate aging family members and multi-generational living arrangements. Each home includes flexible space that can serve as elderly parent accommodation, home offices for remote work, or extended family gathering areas that enable different generations to maintain independence while sharing family responsibilities and social support that strengthen community bonds and neighborhood stability. The community amenities that distinguish our Westlake Village development include a seniors center with fitness facilities designed for elderly residents, community gardens, where different generations can share gardening knowledge and produce, and neighborhood gathering spaces that host regular events, celebrating cultural heritage, family traditions, and intergenerational wisdom, sharing that builds social capital and mutual respect across age groups and cultural background. The resident selection criteria that determine eligibility for home purchases in our Westlake Village development incorporate character assessment protocols that evaluate family relationship patterns, elderly care decisions, and community involvement indicators alongside traditional financial qualifications and credit verification. Potential residents who demonstrate systematic disrespect for elderly family members exploitation of intergenerational relations, or prioritization of social status over family loyalty, are automatically disqualified from residence consideration, regardless of their income levels or professional achievement. The Homeowners Association policies that govern community life in our Westlake Village development emphasize intergenerational respect, family support, and community involvement that honors elderly wisdom while encouraging innovation and professional achievement among younger residents. Community standards that we've established require residents to demonstrate ongoing commitment to family relationships and elderly care that maintain neighborhood character while preventing the kind of social fragmentation and family breakdown that destabilizes communities and reduces property values over time. The property appreciation that our Westlake Village development has experienced since completion reflects not just location and architectural quality, but the community character and social stability that results from careful resident selection and ongoing community oversight, maintains neighborhood standards while building lasting relationships and mutual support networks that increase both property values and quality of life for residents across all age groups and family configuration. The mortgage financing that enabled Miguel and Victoria to purchase their Westlake Village home operated through a sophisticated network of community banks, credit unions, and specialized lending institutions that utilize Meridian Property Holdings character assessment protocols to evaluate loan applications and determine eligibility for premium mortgage products. The favorable interest rates and loan terms that Miguel received weren't simply the result of competitive market conditions or his excellent credit score. They were carefully structured assistance designed to enable young families with strong character and family values to access homeownership in communities that prioritize stability and intergenerational respect. The down payment program that reduced Miguel's initial cash requirements from 20% to 8% of the purchase price reflected Meridian Property Holdings' specialized financing products for first-generation college graduates whose families demonstrated character patterns that predicted long-term community involvement and neighborhood stability. These programs, which Miguel assumed represented standard industry assistance for qualified borrowers, were actually coordinated through our Community Development Finance Division to help promising young families establish roots in neighborhoods where their values and character would contribute to long-term social cohesion and property appreciation. The property insurance coordination simplified Miguel's homeowners coverage, reflected partnerships between Meridian Property Holdings and regional insurance companies that provide comprehensive protection while building long-term customer relationships based on character assessment and community involvement, rather than simply risk calculation and profit maximization. The favorable insurance rates and enhanced coverage options that Miguel accessed through standard industry partnerships actually represented sophisticated risk-sharing agreements that recognized character-based community selection as a primary factor reducing claims and maintaining neighborhood stability. The property tax assessment procedures that determined Miguel's annual tax obligations incorporated Meridian Property Holdings community development agreements with local municipalities that provide tax advantages for residents who demonstrate ongoing commitment to elderly care, community involvement, and intergenerational respect, that maintain neighborhood character while supporting local economic development and social services that benefit all community members. The Homeowners Association financing that supports community amenities and neighborhood maintenance utilize Meridian Property Holdings specialized management systems that coordinate resident contributions with community development resources to maintain property values while building social capital and mutual support networks that increase both individual family stability and collective community resilience during economic challenges and demographic transition. The relationship between Miguel and me that would eventually be corrupted by Victoria's influence and social ambitions had begun with genuine respect, cultural pride, and the kind of intergenerational bond that creates lasting family strength and community connection. During Miguel's childhood in the 1990s, when Carlos was still alive and our Pasadena home served as the gathering place for extended family celebrations, Miguel would spend entire weekends with us, learning about Mexican cultural traditions, family history, and the values of hard work, education, and respect for elderly wisdom that I had hoped would guide his character development throughout his adult life and professional career. Those early years were filled with projects that taught Miguel practical skills while building our relationship through shared accomplishments and cultural education. Carlos would involve Miguel in home improvement projects, painting the front porch, maintaining the vegetable garden, organizing family photographs that documented our immigration story and community involvement, while I taught him Spanish language skills, traditional cooking technique, and the importance of maintaining family connections that linked current generations to their cultural heritage and community roots. The conversations we shared during Miguel's formative years revealed his natural intelligence, his curiosity about business operations, and his genuine interest in understanding the economic principles that determined which families achieved prosperity and which struggled with financial instability, despite their hard work and educational achievements. When Miguel was 13 years old, he would sit at our kitchen table while I graded papers from my elementary school students, asking thoughtful questions about education policy, community development, and the social systems that helped immigrant families build wealth and community standing over time. The family values that Carlos and I tried to instill during Miguel's childhood emphasized the importance of intergenerational support, cultural pride, and the kind of character development that enables people to succeed professionally while maintaining their moral foundation, family loyalty, and community connections that provide meaning and stability throughout life transitions and economic challenges. We taught Miguel that true success required balancing personal achievement with family responsibilities, that elderly wisdom deserved respect and consideration, and that financial prosperity created obligations to support family members and contribute to community welfare, rather than simply accumulating material possessions and social status. The educational support that Carlos and I provided during Miguel's elementary and high school years included homework assistance, college preparation guidance, and the kind of consistent encouragement that helps first-generation college students develop confidence and academic ambition while maintaining cultural identity and family connections. When Miguel struggled with advanced mathematics during his junior year, I spent countless hours helping him understand business and economic concepts, using practical examples from real estate investment and community development to make abstract principles relevant to real-world applications that he could comprehend and apply. However, Miguel's transformation from a respectful young man who valued family relationships into someone whose priorities could be systematically corrupted by a fiancée who viewed elderly family members as obstacles to social advancement had been gradual but increasingly apparent over the past 3 years since he met Victoria Hamilton Wright at a Beverly Hills networking event for young professionals in finance and real estate development. The quantum encrypted servers humming quietly in my converted garage, disguised as standard home workshop equipment that any California craftsman bungalow would contain for basic maintenance and storage, process over 47,000 daily real estate transactions throughout Southern California, while maintaining real-time communication with property management systems, zoning authorities, and development coordination networks that determine housing availability, neighborhood character, and community development patterns across Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura, and Riverside County. The holographic display system that emerges from what appears to be Carlos's vintage workbench provides three-dimensional visualization of property development data, demographic migration patterns, and community stability indicators that enable me to identify emerging real estate opportunities 18 months before they become apparent to traditional market analysts and institutional investors. The system's ability to model complex urban development scenarios, including infrastructure improvements, school district changes, and commercial development impacts, gives Meridian Property Holdings strategic advantages worth billions of dollars in predictive development decisions and community planning that shapes neighborhood evolution and property appreciation patterns. The biometric security systems protecting my real estate operations center include facial recognition, voice analysis, and DNA verification capabilities
that government intelligence agencies use for their most classified urban planning and economic development operations. The emergency protocols embedded throughout my Craftsman bungalow can initiate complete data destruction and facility evacuation within 38 seconds if unauthorized access is detected, while simultaneously transferring all operational control to backup command centers in Century City, Newport Beach, and Santa Barbara that maintain identical capabilities and can assume full corporate leadership without interrupting property management for our 200 residential developments and 15,000 individual property units. But perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of my technological infrastructure is the AI-powered community character assessment system that monitors neighborhood social dynamics, family relationship patterns, and intergenerational respect indicators as primary predictors of long-term community stability and property value appreciation.
This system, which I personally designed after observing how traditional property management focused solely on financial metrics while ignoring character traits that determine neighborhood quality, analyzes social media interactions, community volunteer records, elderly care decisions, and family support patterns to create comprehensive character profiles that determine eligibility for residents in Meridian Property Holdings premium developments and managed communities. Meridian Property Holdings operates as California's most sophisticated vertically integrated real estate investment and development organization, controlling every aspect of community creation from initial land acquisition and environmental planning through architectural design and construction, management to long-term resident services, and neighborhood oversight that maintains property values while building social capital and community resilience that enables neighborhoods to thrive through economic transitions and demographic changes. Our corporate structure, carefully designed to maintain both operational efficiency and regulatory compliance across 14 California counties, includes 47 subsidiary companies that provide specialized services to municipal planning departments, community development organizations, affordable housing initiatives, and luxury residential developments that serve families across the complete economic spectrum while maintaining our commitment to character-based community selection and intergenerational neighborhood stability. Our primary development division, Meridian Community Builders, houses the architectural planning and construction management infrastructure that has created over 90 master-planned communities throughout Southern California, each designed according to principles that promote multi-generational family stability, elderly risk community involvement, and the kind of social interaction that builds lasting neighborhoods, rather than simply providing luxury housing for affluent families who prioritize privacy and social exclusion over community engagement and mutual support that strengthens property values through social cohesion. The sustainable development protocols that guide all Meridian Community Builders projects incorporate environmental stewardship, energy efficiency, and resource conservation principles that reduce long-term operating costs while creating healthy living environments that support aging in place and multi-generational family arrangements. Our communities feature universal design elements that accommodate mobility challenges, extensive green spaces that encourage outdoor activity and social interaction, and community facilities that provide services and programming for residents across all age groups and physical capability. Our property management division, Meridian Residential Services, provides comprehensive community oversight for over 280 residential developments throughout Southern California, including homeowners association management, community event coordination, resident service, and the specialized character monitoring that maintains neighborhood standards while building social connections and mutual support networks that enable communities to maintain stability and property appreciation even during economic downturns and regional demographic transition. The community programming that Meridian Residential Services coordinates includes intergenerational activities that connect elderly residents with young families, cultural celebration events that honor diverse heritage and tradition, educational seminars that build financial literacy and homeownership skills, and volunteer opportunities that enable residents to contribute to community welfare while building social networks and mutual support relationships that provide security and meaning throughout life transitions and aging processes. Our commercial real estate division, Meridian Business Property has assembled a portfolio of shopping centers, office complexes, medical facilities, and mixed-use developments that provide essential services and employment opportunities for the residential communities we've created, generating integrated economic ecosystems that support family stability and community prosperity, rather than extracting wealth through rent maximization and tenant displacement strategies that benefit property owners while impoverishing local residents and small business operators. The commercial tenant selection criteria that govern our shopping centers and office complexes prioritize businesses that serve community needs, provide quality employment opportunity, and demonstrate commitment to customer service and community involvement that builds social capital and neighborhood stability. Our retail developments feature local businesses, family-owned restaurants, professional services, and healthcare providers that create employment opportunities for community residents, while providing convenient access to essential services that support aging in place and family stability. But the most strategically important aspect of our operations is the affordable housing development network that helps working-class families access homeownership opportunities in communities with excellent schools, safe neighborhood, proximity to employment centers that enable economic mobility and generational wealth building. Our specialized financing programs, coordinated through partnerships with community banks, credit unions, and state housing agencies, provide first-time homebuyers with favorable mortgage term payment assistance and financial counseling that make homeownership possible for families whose character and community commitment predict long-term neighborhood stability and positive contribution to community development. The master-planned community in Westlake Village, where Miguel and Victoria purchased their $2.3 million dream home, represents the culmination of 8 years of careful planning, community design, and character-based development that created one of Southern California's most successful experiments in intergenerational neighborhood stability and social cohesion. The development, which we completed in 2019 after extensive community input and environmental review, incorporates architectural features and community amenities specifically designed to encourage family gatherings, elderly inclusion, and the kind of social interaction that builds lasting neighborhoods rather than simply providing luxury housing for affluent families. The Spanish colonial revival architecture that characterizes the development's 30-40 homes reflects California's cultural heritage while providing modern amenities, energy efficiency, and accessibility features that accommodate aging family members and multi-generational living arrangements. Each home includes flexible space that can serve as elderly parent accommodation, home offices for remote work, guest quarters for extended family visit, or recreational areas for intergenerational gathering that enable different generations to maintain independence while sharing family responsibilities and social support that strengthen community bonds and neighborhood stability. The lot sizes and landscaping requirements that govern the development encourage outdoor living, community interaction, and the kind of informal social contact that builds neighborhood relationships and mutual support networks. Front porches, sidewalk connectivity, and shared green spaces create opportunities for spontaneous interaction between neighbors while providing safe environments for children's play and elderly recreation that maintain community vitality and social engagement across age groups and family configuration. The community amenities that distinguish our Westlake Village development include a 15,000 square foot community center with fitness facilities designed for elderly residents, meeting rooms for community organizations and family celebration, and educational spaces that host seminars on financial planning, health and wellness, and family relationship building that support residents throughout life transitions and aging process. The community gardens that occupy 12 acres of common space provide opportunities for residents to share gardening knowledge, cultural traditions, fresh produce, while building intergenerational relationships and community cooperation that strengthen social networks and neighborhood stability. The gardens include accessible raised beds for elderly residents, children's learning areas for gardening education, and communal gathering spaces for seasonal celebrations and cultural events that honor diverse heritage and tradition. The neighborhood walking trails that connect residential areas with community amenities, commercial districts, and public transportation encourage physical activity, social interaction, and environmental stewardship, while providing accessible recreation opportunities for residents of all ages and mobility levels. The trails feature rest areas, community art installations, and interpretive signage that celebrate local history and cultural heritage, while building community pride and social connection. The resident selection criteria that determine eligibility for home purchases in our Westlake Village development incorporate sophisticated character assessment protocols that evaluate family relationship patterns, elderly care decisions, community involvement indicators, and demonstrated commitment to intergenerational respect alongside traditional financial qualifications and credit verification. Potential residents undergo comprehensive character evaluation that includes family reference interviews, community service verification, social media analysis that identifies individuals whose values and behavior patterns predict long-term neighborhood stability and positive community contribution. The character assessment process that Miguel and Victoria completed during their home purchase application included detailed interviews about family relationships, elderly care responsibility, and community involvement plans that evaluated their suitability for residents in a community that prioritizes intergenerational respect and family stability. The favorable assessment that enabled their home purchase reflected Miguel's demonstrated family loyalty, cultural pride, and commitment to elderly care that met our community standards, though Victoria's character evaluation revealed concerning patterns that required ongoing monitoring and community oversight. The mortgage financing that enabled Miguel and Victoria to purchase their Westlake Village home operated through an intricate network of community banks, credit unions, and specialized lending institutions that utilize Meridian Property Holdings, character assessment protocols, and community development priorities to evaluate loan applications and determine eligibility for premium mortgage products that support neighborhood stability and property appreciation through careful resident selection and long-term community commitment. The specialized lending products that Miguel accessed through our Community Development Finance Division offered interest rates 1.2 percentage points below market standards, extended repayment terms that reduced monthly payment obligations, and flexible qualification criteria that recognize character assessment and community involvement as primary factors in creditworthiness evaluation, alongside traditional income verification and debt-to-income calculations that often excluded qualified borrowers whose employment patterns or family circumstances didn't conform to conventional lending criteria. The down payment assistance program that reduced Miguel's initial cash requirements from the standard 20% to 8% of the purchase price reflected Meridian Property Holdings' commitment to supporting first-generation home buyers whose families demonstrated care patterns and community involvement that predicted long-term neighborhood stability and positive contribution to community development. The $460,000 down payment reduction that Miguel received wasn't simply a promotional offer or competitive market incentive, it was carefully structured investment designed to enable promising young families to establish roots in neighborhoods where their values and character would enhance property values and social cohesion. The property insurance coordination that simplified Miguel's homeowners' coverage reflected sophisticated partnership between Meridian Property Holdings and regional insurance companies that provide comprehensive protection while building long-term customer relationships based on character assessment, community involvement, and demonstrated commitment to property maintenance and neighborhood stewardship, rather than simply risk calculation and profit maximization that treats customers as interchangeable accounts rather than community stakeholders. The Homeowners Association structure that governs community life in our Westlake Village development operates through resident committees, community program, and neighborhood oversight that maintains property values while building social capital and mutual support networks that increase both individual family stability and collective community resilience during economic challenges and demographic transition. The HOA fees that Miguel pays monthly support not just property maintenance and community amenities, but also the character monitoring and community development programming that maintains neighborhood standards and social cohesion. The property tax assessment procedures that determined Miguel's annual tax obligations incorporated Meridian Property Holdings, community development, agreements with Ventura County and local municipalities that provide tax advantages for residents who demonstrate ongoing commitment to elderly care, community involvement, and intergenerational respect, that maintain neighborhood character while supporting local economic development and social services that benefit all community members across age groups and socioeconomic background. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Miguel's financing arrangement was the property appreciation guarantee that protected his investment while encouraging long-term residents and community involvement. The guarantee, which most homeowners in our developments never fully understand, ensures that property values increase consistently through careful community management, resident selection, neighborhood programming that maintains social stability and market desirability, even during regional economic downturns or demographic changes that might otherwise destabilize property values and community cohesion. Victoria Hamilton Wright's entry into Miguel's life 3 years ago, Beverly Hills networking event for young professionals in finance and real estate development, marked the beginning of systematic corruption that would gradually transform my respectful son into someone whose values could be manipulated by a woman whose privileged background and social ambition prioritized material status over family loyalty, elderly respect, and the community values that had guided Miguel's character development throughout his childhood and early adulthood. Victoria's background as the daughter of Hamilton Wright Financial Advisor, a wealth management firm that served old money families throughout Southern California, provided her with sophisticated understanding of real estate investment, luxury lifestyle management, the social networking strategies that enabled affluent families to maintain their status and influence across generations. Her professional training as a marketing consultant for luxury brands had taught her to identify and manipulate social insecurities, material desire and status aspirations that could be leveraged to influence purchasing decisions and lifestyle choices that aligned with corporate profit objectives rather than individual or family welfare. The conversations between Miguel and Victoria that I occasionally overheard during family gatherings revealed a worldview that prioritized efficiency, social positioning, and measurable lifestyle outcomes over relationships, tradition, and the unmeasurable contributions that elderly family members provide through emotional support, historical perspective, and institutional memory that connects current generations to their cultural heritage and community roots. Victoria's influence on Miguel's thinking about family relationships had been particularly damaging because her apparent sophistication and social connections provided seemingly authoritative validation for attitudes that prioritized convenience and image management over family loyalty and intergenerational responsibility. Victoria's systematic approach to upgrading Miguel's social circle, professional image, and lifestyle choices consistently excluded elderly family members and focused on relationships with other affluent young professionals who shared her assumptions about elderly care as professional responsibility rather than family opportunity, and who validated her prioritization of career advancement and social status over family obligations and community involvement that required time, emotional energy, and financial resources without providing measurable returns on investment. The influence operations that Victoria conducted to reshape Miguel's understanding of success, family relationship, and social responsibility were sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques that exploited his natural ambition while systematically undermining his connection to cultural heritage, family value, and community involvement that had previously provided meaning and stability throughout his educational and professional development. Her suggestions about optimizing family time, streamlining elderly care responsibility, and professionalizing financial support for aging relatives consistently reinforced Miguel's growing impatience with family obligations that interfered with career networking and social advancement opportunities. The social activities that Victoria introduced into Miguel's lifestyle excluded elderly family members and focused on experiences that reinforced their identification with successful young professionals
rather than multi-generational family systems that valued wisdom and experience alongside innovation and ambition. Their weekend activities included exclusive event luxury experiences and social gatherings that demonstrated their material success while systematically minimizing interactions with elderly relatives whose needs might complicate their social calendar or reduce their availability for professional networking and lifestyle experiences that enhance their social status and career prospects. Victoria's educational background from Pepperdine University's business program and her graduate studies in marketing psychology at UCLA had provided her with sophisticated understanding of behavioral manipulation, social influence techniques, and the psychological vulnerabilities that could be exploited to reshape personal values and relationship priorities, according to external objectives and social expectations. Her systematic application of these techniques to Miguel's character development represented calculated social engineering rather than authentic relationship building or mutual personal growth that honored both partners' backgrounds and family commitments. The family planning discussions between Miguel and Victoria revealed systematic calculation about elderly care obligations that treated family support as budgetary line items rather than expressions of love and respect that maintained cultural continuity and provided meaning throughout life transitions and aging process. Their conversations about my supposed financial needs and declining independence were characterized by the same analytical approach they applied to investment decisions and lifestyle optimization, demonstrating how thoroughly Victoria's influence had corrupted Miguel's understanding of human relationships and family responsibility. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of Victoria's influence was her systematic efforts to isolate Miguel from family members and community connections that might challenge her values or question her priorities. Her scheduling of important events that conflicted with family gatherings, her creation of social obligations that required Miguel's attention during traditional family time, and her subtle criticism of cultural traditions and family customs represented coordinated strategy to weaken Miguel's connection to his heritage, while strengthening his dependence on her approval and social validation. The lifestyle changes that Victoria introduced into Miguel's daily routine and social activities systematically prioritized image management, status demonstration, and social positioning over authentic relationship building, community involvement, and the kind of character development that enables people to succeed professionally while maintaining their moral foundation and family connections that provide stability and meaning throughout economic transitions and life challenges. The home decoration and lifestyle choices that Victoria implemented in their Westlake Village home consistently emphasized contemporary luxury, minimalist aesthetics, and the kind of sophisticated design elements that demonstrated their social status and cultural sophistication, while systematically excluding family photographs, cultural artifacts, and traditional decorations that would have maintained Miguel's connection to his heritage and family history. The interior design that Victoria selected prioritized entertainment spaces for professional networking over family gathering areas that would have accommodated elderly relatives and multi-generational celebration. The social entertainment that Victoria organized in their home focused exclusively on professional colleagues, industry contacts, and affluent neighbors whose approval could advance their careers and social standing, while consistently excluding elderly family members, cultural community leaders, and longtime family friends whose presence might have complicated their social image or required accommodation for accessibility needs and cultural preferences that didn't align with contemporary luxury lifestyle expectations. The vacation planning and leisure activities that Victoria coordinated for their relationship consistently excluded elderly family members and focused on experiences that reinforced their identification with successful professional couples rather than multi-generational family systems that honored elderly wisdom and cultural traditions. Their trips to luxury resort, professional conference destinations, and exclusive social events demonstrated their material success while systematically minimizing opportunities for Miguel to maintain meaningful relationships with aging relatives, who required consideration and inclusion in family activity. The financial planning strategies that Victoria implemented for their household systematically prioritized lifestyle enhancement, status demonstration, and social positioning over family support, community contribution, and the kind of intergenerational wealth building that enables families to provide security and opportunity across multiple generations. Their investment priorities, discretionary spending pattern, and charitable giving decisions consistently favored causes and organizations that enhanced their social status while reducing support for family members and community organizations that had previously received Miguel's time, attention, and financial contribution. The career development advice that Victoria provided to Miguel consistently emphasized professional advancement, salary maximization, and industry recognition that would enhance their social standing, while discouraging community involvement, family business opportunity, and the kind of professional choices that would have enabled him to contribute to his cultural community and support family economic development that built intergenerational wealth and community stability. The communication patterns that Victoria established for Miguel's family relationships consistently minimized contact frequency, limited conversation topic, and created emotional distance that weakened his connection to cultural heritage, while strengthening his dependence on her approval and social validation. Her suggestions about managing family interactions through scheduled calls, time-limited visits, and topic restrictions represented systematic relationship manipulation rather than healthy boundary setting or communication improvement that would have enhanced family connections while respecting everyone's needs and preferences. The gift-giving and celebration management that Victoria implemented for family occasions consistently emphasized convenience, efficiency, and minimal personal involvement over meaningful gesture creation, cultural tradition maintenance, and the kind of thoughtful engagement that builds lasting relationships and demonstrates genuine care and respect for family members across generations and cultural backgrounds. Her approach to family celebrations treated them as obligations to complete, rather than opportunities to strengthen bonds and maintain cultural continuity. The transportation and logistics coordination that Victoria managed for family visits consistently created barriers, complications, and scheduling conflicts that reduced Miguel's availability for elderly care assistance, while increasing his dependence on her organizational skills and social coordination that positioned her as essential to his lifestyle management and professional success. Her systematic approach to family visit planning prioritized their convenience over elderly accessibility needs and family gathering traditions that had previously provided stability and meaning for extended family relations. The elderly care planning discussions that Victoria initiated with Miguel revealed sophisticated understanding of institutional options, professional services, and legal frameworks that could minimize family involvement, while ensuring adequate care provision through systems that prioritize efficiency and cost management over emotional connection and cultural continuity that maintained dignity and family bonds throughout aging processes and end-of-life transition. The most devastating aspect of Victoria's influence on Miguel's family relationships was her systematic redefinition of love, respect, and family obligation, according to contemporary lifestyle management principles that treated elderly needs as problems to solve, rather than recognizing aging relatives as individuals whose wisdom, experience, and cultural knowledge deserved honor and preservation through meaningful intergenerational engagement and mutual support that strengthened family bonds while building character and cultural continuity across generations. As Victoria's influence over Miguel's values and priorities became increasingly apparent through his changed behavior toward family gatherings, elderly care responsibilities, and community involvement, I realized that the character assessment protocols that protected our residential community from social disruption would soon need to be applied to my own family members, whose transformation threatened not only their eligibility for residence in Meridian Property Holdings development, but also their access to the financial support and community networks that had enabled their prosperity and social advancement throughout their professional development and lifestyle establishment in Southern California's competitive real estate market.
The transformation of Miguel Rodriguez from the respectful young man who once spent summer weekends learning family history and cultural traditions into someone whose values could be systematically corrupted by a fiancée who viewed elderly family members as obstacles to social advancement, gradual but increasingly apparent over the 36 months since Victoria entered his life with her sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation and social influence techniques, designed to reshape personal priorities according to affluent lifestyle expectations and professional networking strategies. Miguel's early years had been characterized by genuine cultural pride, authentic respect for intergenerational wisdom, and the kind of family loyalty that creates lasting bonds and community connection across generations and economic circumstances. As a child he would arrive at our Pasadena home each Saturday morning with homework questions, gardening enthusiasm, and eager curiosity about the stories that Carlos and I shared about our immigration experience, community involvement, and the family values that had enabled us to build stability and prosperity through hard work, education, and mutual support that honored both individual achievement and collective family advancement. The undergraduate years at UCLA had been when I first noticed subtle changes in Miguel's attitude toward family traditions and community involvement. His business administration coursework, combined with exposure to contemporary management theories and competitive career preparation programs, gradually convinced him that efficiency and optimization should guide personal relationships, just as they determined professional decision-making and strategic planning that prioritized measurable outcomes over emotional connection and cultural continuity that provided meaning and stability throughout life transitions and economic challenges. The internship experiences that Miguel pursued during his junior and senior years introduced him to corporate environments where success was measured primarily through individual achievement, quarterly performance metrics, and advancement up organizational hierarchies that rewarded personal ambition over collaborative contribution and community involvement that built social capital and mutual support networks. The mentors he encountered in these professional settings consistently emphasized the importance of strategic networking, resource allocation, and calculated relationship management that treated personal connections as career development tools rather than sources of mutual support, cultural learning, and emotional fulfillment that sustained character development and family loyalty. The academic theories that Miguel absorbed during his business program included economic models that prioritized efficiency over equity, optimization over stability, and individual advancement over community welfare and intergenerational support that honored elderly wisdom and cultural heritage as valuable guidance, rather than obsolete burden that interfered with contemporary lifestyle management and professional advancement opportunities. His professor, many of whom had limited experience with immigrant family businesses or community-based economics, taught Miguel to evaluate every relationship and commitment according to measurable return on investment and opportunity cost calculations that systematically undervalued the contributions that elderly family members provide through wisdom, emotional support, institutional memory, and cultural knowledge preservation. But perhaps the most damaging aspect of Miguel's college experience was his systematic misunderstanding of the support systems that enabled his educational success and career preparation. The scholarships that reduced his student loan, the internship opportunities that provided practical experience and professional networking, the career placement services that connected him with promising employment opportunities, all reflected careful coordination through Meridian Property Holdings' educational development programs and community investment initiative. Though Miguel interpreted this support as evidence of his individual merit, academic achievement, and professional potential rather than recognizing the institutional assistance that had created his advancement opportunity. The employment opportunity that Miguel secured immediately after UCLA graduation with Westside Commercial Properties, a boutique real estate development firm specializing in luxury residential and mixed-use projects throughout Los Angeles County, represented exactly the kind of strategic career placement that Meridian Property Holdings coordinated through our professional development networks, to provide promising young professionals with experience, training, and industry connections that would benefit both individual career advancement and community economic development throughout Southern California's competitive real estate markets. The position that seemed perfectly suited to Miguel's educational background, personal interest, and professional ambitions reflected systematic coordination between Meridian Property Holdings and Westside Commercial Properties through partnership agreements, consulting contracts, and the kind of strategic business relationships that enabled established companies to access special expertise while providing emerging professionals with career development opportunities that wouldn't normally be available to recent graduates without extensive industry experience and professional networking. The training programs that developed Miguel's expertise in property development, community planning, and market analysis weren't standard company offerings available to all entry-level employees. They were specialized development opportunities coordinated through Meridian Property Holdings' professional education initiatives, designed to provide promising real estate professionals with the knowledge, skill, and industry connections necessary for successful career advancement, while building expertise that would benefit both individual professional growth and regional economic development, that created housing opportunities and community stability throughout Southern California. The client relationships that enabled Miguel's rapid advancement from entry-level analyst to senior project coordinator reflected systematic introductions to property developers, municipal planning officials, and community leaders, whose projects were coordinated through Meridian Property Holdings development networks and regulatory partnerships. The trust and professional credibility that Miguel earned from industry contacts wasn't simply the result of his individual capabilities and work ethic, reflected the carefully managed project coordination and regulatory facilitation that made his clients successful, while building their appreciation for his professional services and development expertise. The industry recognition that Miguel received for outstanding project management and community development achievements reflected results that consistently exceeded company averages and regional benchmarks for development, timeline management, regulatory approval coordination, and community stakeholder engagement. The awards, performance bonuses, and professional advancement that distinguished Miguel's career trajectory were based on measurable outcomes that demonstrated exceptional professional capability while concealing the systematic institutional support that made these achievements possible through regulatory relationships and community coordination that reduced project obstacles and enhanced development success rates. The salary progression that enabled Miguel to transition from modest apartment living to luxury home ownership in Westlake Village, reflecting commission structures and performance incentives that were possible because his project coordination consistently achieved superior results through access to regulatory facilitation, community support, and development expertise that other project coordinators couldn't replicate without similar institutional assistance and network access that Miguel never recognized as strategic support rather than earned professional advancement. The networking opportunities that connected Miguel with industry leaders, municipal officials, and community development professionals represented strategic relationship building coordinated through Meridian Property Holdings professional advancement programs rather than organic career development that demonstrated individual initiative and interpersonal skill. The professional associations, industry conferences, and continuing education programs that enhanced Miguel's credentials and market knowledge were subsidized through partnerships and educational initiatives that most real estate professionals couldn't afford without employer support or personal financial sacrifice. The home selection process that led Miguel and Victoria to their $2.3 million Westlake Village estate wasn't the result of independent market research and property comparison that demonstrated their sophisticated understanding of real estate values and community assessment. The property tour, market analysis, and neighborhood evaluation that guided their decision-making were coordinated through Meridian Property Holdings' residential sales network to ensure that promising young families with appropriate character profiles were directed toward communities that would benefit from residents, while providing them with optimal investment and lifestyle opportunities. The real estate agent who represented Miguel and Victoria during their home search Jennifer Chen, from Westlake Premier Realties, certified specialist in Meridian Property Holdings character-based community development programs, who had been trained to evaluate potential residents according to family values, community involvement pattern, demonstrated commitment to intergenerational respect that predicted long-term neighborhood stability and positive contribution to community development. The property recommendations that Jennifer provided weren't based solely on financial qualifications and lifestyle preferences. They incorporated character assessment criteria that ensured community compatibility and social cohesion. The property inspection and evaluation process that validated Miguel and Victoria's purchase decision included specialized assessment of architectural features, community amenities, and neighborhood characteristics that supported multi-generational living, elderly accessibility, and the kind of social interaction that builds lasting community relationships and property value appreciation through social stability and mutual support networks that maintain neighborhood desirability even during regional economic challenges and demographic transitions. The mortgage pre-approval process that enabled Miguel to compete effectively in Westlake Village's competitive housing market reflected access to specialized lending products and preferential qualification criteria that weren't available through conventional mortgage channels or traditional bank relationships. The financial documentation, credit verification, and income analysis that supported his loan application were expedited through Meridian Property Holdings lending partnerships and community development finance networks that prioritized character assessment alongside traditional creditworthiness evaluation. The closing coordination that facilitated Miguel's home purchase included specialized legal services, title insurance, and property transfer procedures that reduced transaction costs while ensuring comprehensive property protection and community integration support that helped new residents understand neighborhood standards, community involvement opportunity, and the expectations for social participation that maintained property values and community character throughout demographic changes and economic transition. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Miguel's home purchase was the property appreciation strategy that protected his investment while encouraging long-term residents and community involvement. The comprehensive property management, neighborhood oversight, and community development programming that maintained Westlake Village's desirability and market value represented millions of dollars in annual investment that most residential communities couldn't afford without institutional support and strategic coordination that Miguel never recognized as ongoing assistance, rather than as standard community services and homeowners association management. The sophisticated character monitoring systems that Meridian Property Holdings implements throughout all managed communities operate through discrete observation networks, community feedback mechanisms, and social interaction analysis that identifies residents whose behavior patterns indicate potential threats to neighborhood stability, property value, and the kind of social cohesion that enables communities to thrive through economic challenges and demographic changes that might otherwise destabilize property appreciation and community care. The community liaisons, who coordinate neighborhood programming and resident services throughout our developments, receive specialized training in family dynamics assessment, elderly care evaluation, and intergenerational relationship monitoring that enables early identification of character deterioration, family conflict, and social behavior patterns that could disrupt community harmony, while providing intervention opportunities that address problems before they escalate into situations requiring more severe consequences or community protection measures. The social media monitoring systems that track residents' online activity, family relationship discussions, and community involvement patterns provide real-time assessment of character stability and value alignment that enables proactive community management and resident support service. The algorithmic analysis of posting patterns, relationship interaction, and social engagement indicators identifies potential problems while providing opportunities for educational programming and community support that addresses character challenges
before they threaten neighborhood stability or property value. The neighborhood volunteer coordinators who organize community events, social programming, and intergenerational activities serve dual functions as community builders and character assessors who observe family dynamics, elderly treatment pattern, and social interaction quality that indicates residents' ongoing suitability for residents in communities that prioritize family values and social responsibility over individual convenience and lifestyle optimization that ignores community welfare and mutual support obligation. The community feedback systems that enable residents to report concerns about neighbor behavior, family conflicts, and social problems provide early warning indicators of character deterioration while maintaining privacy and dignity for families experiencing temporary difficulties that can be addressed through community support rather than requiring intervention or consequences that might disrupt neighborhood stability or property appreciation through conflict escalation and social division. The quarterly character review process that evaluates all residents' ongoing suitability for community residents incorporates data from multiple assessment sources, including community participation records, family relationship observations, elderly care decisions, and social interaction patterns that indicate whether residents continue to meet the character standards that qualified them for initial residence approval and community membership in neighborhoods that prioritize social stability and property value protection through careful resident selection and ongoing community oversight. The character evaluation that Victoria completed during the Westlake Village home purchase process had revealed concerning patterns that required ongoing monitoring and community oversight to ensure that her influence on Miguel and their potential impact on neighborhood character remained with acceptable parameters for community stability and property value protection. The assessment interview that Victoria participated in with Community Liaison Coordinator Sarah Martinez had indicated sophisticated understanding of appropriate responses while revealing underlying attitudes that suggested potential challenges for long-term community compatibility. The family relationship assessment that Victoria completed as part of the character evaluation process included detailed questions about elderly care responsibilities, intergenerational support obligations, and family priority management that revealed systematic approaches to relationship optimization and resource allocation that prioritized efficiency and convenience over emotional connection and cultural continuity that sustained family bonds and community stability across generations and economic circumstance. The community involvement planning that Victoria outlined during her character assessment interview emphasized professional networking, social status enhancement, and lifestyle experiences that demonstrated material success while minimizing commitment to neighborhood programming, elderly support services, and the kind of community contribution that builds social capital and mutual support networks that maintain property values through social cohesion and collective problem-solving capability. The social media analysis that formed part of Victoria's ongoing character monitoring revealed posting patterns, relationship discussions, and value expressions that indicated systematic prioritization of individual advancement over family loyalty, community responsibility, and intergenerational respect that predicted potential challenges for neighborhood harmony and property appreciation through social stability and mutual support that enabled communities to thrive through economic transitions and demographic change. The behavioral observation reports that community liaisons submitted regarding Victoria's social interactions, neighborhood participation, and family relationship patterns document increasing evidence of character deterioration and value misalignment that threatened her continued eligibility. Residents in a community that required ongoing demonstration of family values and social responsibility that honored elderly wisdom while building community cohesion and property value appreciation through collective commitment and mutual support. The most concerning aspect of Victoria's character assessment was her systematic efforts to isolate Miguel from family relationships and community connections that might challenge her values or question her priorities. The scheduling conflicts that prevented Miguel's attendance at family gatherings, the social obligations that required his attention during traditional community events, the subtle criticism of cultural traditions and neighborhood involvement represented coordinated strategy to weaken his connection to values and relationships that had previously guided his character development and community contribution. The escalating character concerns that Victoria's behavior pattern analysis had revealed triggered Meridian Property Holdings community intervention protocols designed to address resident character deterioration before it threatened neighborhood stability or required more severe consequences that might disrupt community harmony and property value protection through conflict escalation and social division that could destabilize the careful balance of family values and social responsibility that made our developments successful and sustainable. The community liaison meeting that Sarah Martinez requested with Miguel and Victoria to discuss neighborhood involvement opportunities and family support programming represented the first level of intervention designed to provide educational resources and community connection that could address character challenges through positive engagement rather than punitive measures that might create resentment and social conflict that damaged community cohesion and property appreciation through relationship deterioration and value misalignment. The elderly support programming that Sarah recommended for Miguel and Victoria's participation included volunteer opportunities at the Community Senior Center, intergenerational activity coordination, and family relationship counseling that could strengthen their connection to community values, while providing practical experience with elderly care and respect that builds character and social responsibility through direct service and relationship building that honors wisdom and experience across generations and cultural backgrounds. The community mentorship program that paired Miguel and Victoria with established Westlake Village families who demonstrated successful integration of professional achievement with family loyalty and community involvement, provided positive role models and social support that could counter Victoria's influence while reinforcing the character development value alignment that sustained long-term community membership and property appreciation through social stability and mutual support network. The character development workshops that Sarah offered as part of the community intervention programming addressed topics including family relationship management, elderly care responsibility, intergenerational and community involvement that built social capital and character foundation necessary for sustainable community membership and property ownership that honored both individual achievement and collective welfare, that maintained neighborhood desirability and market value appreciation. The month check-in meetings that Sarah scheduled with Miguel and Victoria to monitor their progress in community integration and character development provided ongoing assessment opportunities while offering support and guidance that could address emerging challenges before they required more serious intervention or consequences that might threaten their continued residence eligibility in a community that prioritized character and family values over individual convenience and lifestyle optimization. The family gathering, on February 14, 2020, promotion to senior project coordinator at Westside Commercial Properties, became the setting for increasingly apparent evidence that Victoria's influence on Miguel's character and family relationships had reached levels that threatened not only his personal development, but also his continued eligibility for residence in communities that required ongoing demonstration of family values and intergenerational respect that sustained neighborhood stability and property appreciation. The celebration dinner that I hosted at my Pasadena home included traditional Mexican cuisine, family photographs, and cultural decorations that honored Miguel's heritage while recognizing his professional achievement through community connection and intergenerational support that had previously provided meaning and stability throughout his educational and career development. The gathering was designed to strengthen family bonds while celebrating success that honored both individual accomplishment and collective family advancement, that built social capital and cultural continuity. Victoria's behavior during the family celebration revealed systematic discomfort with cultural traditions, family interaction pattern, intergenerational communication that suggested increasing alienation from the values and relationships that had shaped Miguel's character development and community involvement, that wowed his childhood and early adulthood. Her obvious impatience with elderly conversation, cultural storytelling, and family photograph sharing demonstrated growing disconnection from the social patterns and relationship priorities that sustained community membership and character development. The conversation that Victoria initiated about updating family celebration traditions to reflect contemporary lifestyle preferences revealed sophisticated understanding of social influence techniques designed to reshape family customs according to her aesthetic preferences and social expectations, rather than honoring cultural heritage and intergenerational connection that provided stability and meaning across generations and economic circumstances. Her suggestions consistently prioritized efficiency, image management, and social positioning over authentic relationship building and cultural preservation. The moment that provided the clearest evidence of character deterioration occurred when Victoria interrupted my storytelling about Miguel's childhood achievements to suggest that dwelling on the past prevents focus on future opportunities, and that family gatherings should emphasize professional advancement. Nostalgia that doesn't contribute to career development or social positioning. The dismissive tone and systematic devaluation of family history revealed attitudes that threatened her continued compatibility with community values and neighborhood character standards. Miguel's response to Victoria's interruption, his failure to defend family traditions or challenge her dismissive comments about elderly storytelling and cultural heritage, demonstrated how completely her influence had corrupted his understanding of respect, loyalty, and intergenerational responsibility that had previously guided his character development and community involvement. His uncomfortable silence and obvious desire to change the conversation revealed systematic disconnection from values that had shaped his identity and family relationships throughout his formative years. The aftermath of the February celebration, including Miguel's reduced communication frequency, shortened family visits, and growing resistance to community involvement and cultural activities, provided documented evidence of character deterioration that required escalated intervention through community oversight and potential consequences that could protect neighborhood stability while providing opportunities for character rehabilitation and value realignment that honored both individual growth and collective community welfare, that sustained property appreciation and social cohesion through careful resident selection and ongoing character monitoring. The acquisition meeting that I attended on March 10, 2024, while Miguel assumed I was conducting another confused medical appointment that would probably result in unnecessary prescriptions and elderly confusion about healthcare instruction, was actually one of the most significant strategic expansion sessions in Meridian Property Holdings' 32-year history. The executive committee had gathered in our Century City headquarters, a modest 12-story building that appeared unremarkable among the gleaming towers of Los Angeles' business district, but housed some of the most sophisticated real estate analysis and community development operations on the West Coast, to finalize decisions that would determine the future of luxury housing development, affordable community planning, and character-based resident selection throughout Southern California. The agenda for our quarterly expansion review included evaluation of 47 potential development sites throughout Los Angeles, Orange, Ventura, and Riverside County, analysis of emerging demographic trends that could affect long-term community stability, and strategic planning for acquisitions that would strengthen our competitive position in sustainable development. multi-generational housing, and the kind of character-centered community planning that honored elderly wisdom while supporting young family advancement and economic mobility across cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds. But the most significant item under discussion was the expansion of our character assessment protocols to include real-time family relationship monitoring that would enable immediate intervention when residents demonstrated systematic disrespect for elderly family members, exploitation of intergenerational relationships, or the kind of social behavior patterns that threatened community stability and property value appreciation through relationship deterioration and value misalignment that could destabilize entire neighborhoods if not addressed through appropriate consequences and community protection measures.
The proposal that I had been developing for 18 months involved systematic implementation of enhanced character monitoring that would track social media activity, family gathering participation, elderly care decisions, and community involvement patterns to identify residents whose behavior indicated potential threats to neighborhood harmony, while providing intervention opportunities that addressed character challenges before they required property forfeiture or community exclusion that might disrupt social cohesion and property appreciation through conflict escalation and resident displacement. The discussion among our executive team, 17 accomplished professionals whose expertise spanned community development, behavioral psychology, regulatory affairs, and strategic intelligence, had been particularly intense because several board members questioned whether enhanced character monitoring represented appropriate oversight for residential communities or potential privacy violations that could create legal challenges and community resistance that might undermine our development objectives and resident satisfaction levels. But my argument for expanding our monitoring capabilities was based on 32 years of experience watching promising young families achieve material success and property ownership, while gradually losing the character foundation and family values that enabled sustainable community membership and long-term property appreciation, social stability, and mutual support that honored wisdom and experience alongside innovation and individual achievement. The specific case studies that I presented to support enhanced character monitoring included detailed analysis of families whose character deterioration had threatened neighborhood stability, property values, and community cohesion through systematic elderly neglect, family relationship exploitation, and social behavior patterns that prioritized individual advancement over collective welfare and intergenerational respect that sustained community prosperity and property appreciation across economic transitions and demographic changes. As I drove home from our Century City headquarters through the afternoon traffic that connected downtown Los Angeles to the residential communities where families built their lives and raised their children, I felt optimistic about implementing systems that could protect elderly community members from family exploitation, while ensuring that property ownership and neighborhood residents remained connected to character development and intergenerational respect that honored wisdom and experience alongside material achievement and professional advancement. The family visit that Miguel had reluctantly scheduled for March 15th represented his first appearance at my Pasadena home in over 6 weeks, a pattern of reduced contact that community liaison Sarah Martinez had documented as part of his ongoing character assessment, review, and potential intervention planning. His arrival 30 minutes late, accompanied by Victoria's obvious impatience and systematic avoidance of meaningful conversation with me, provided additional evidence of character deterioration that threatened their continued eligibility for residence in communities that required demonstration of family values and elderly respect. The conversation during their brief visit revealed Miguel's systematic adoption of Victoria's priorities and communication patterns that minimized elderly engagement while maximizing efficiency and convenience for their social schedule and professional networking obligations. His responses to my questions about work, community involvement, and family planning were abbreviated, superficial, designed to prevent the kind of meaningful discussion that might have revealed the extent to which Victoria's influence had corrupted his understanding of family relationships and intergenerational responsibility. Victoria's behavior during the visit demonstrated increasing comfort with dismissive attitudes toward elderly conversation, cultural traditions, and family customs that had previously provided Miguel with identity, meaning, and character development throughout his formative years. Her obvious boredom with my storytelling, systematic redirection of conversation toward their professional achievements and social activity, and subtle criticism of home decoration and lifestyle choices revealed growing alienation from values and relationships that threatened her control over Miguel's priorities and decision-making. The moment that provided the clearest indication of escalating character problems occurred when Victoria interrupted my description of community volunteer opportunities at the senior center to suggest that elderly programming isn't really aligned with our current lifestyle priorities and professional development objectives. Her casual dismissal of elderly service and community involvement demonstrated systematic devaluation of exactly the kind of character-building activities that sustained community membership and property ownership eligibility in neighborhoods that prioritized social responsibility and intergenerational respect. Miguel's response to Victoria's dismissed comment, his immediate agreement and suggestion that they needed to focus on activities that support career advancement and social positioning, rather than obligations that don't provide measurable benefits, revealed how completely her influence had overwhelmed the family values and community commitment that had previously guided his character development and relationship priorities. His adoption of her language and value framework demonstrated systematic character corruption that threatened his continued suitability for residents in communities that required ongoing demonstration of family loyalty and elderly respect. The visit concluded with Victoria's announcement would be hosting a housewarming party the following weekend to introduce their Westlake Village home to professional colleagues and community leaders, while making it clear that elderly family members would not be included in their social celebration because the event is designed for network and relationship building that supports career advancement rather than family obligation management. Her systematic exclusion of elderly relatives from their social activities represented exactly the kind of character failure that justified immediate intervention and potential consequence. As Miguel and Victoria prepared to leave, I made one final attempt to address the character concerns that threatened their community standing and property ownership eligibility. "Miguel, sweetheart," I said with the patient tone that elderly wisdom provides when adult children demonstrate systematic moral failure, "I hope you remember that true success and lasting happiness come from maintaining strong family relationships and community connections that honor wisdom and experience alongside personal achievement and material prosperity." Victoria's response would provide the documented evidence, justified the most comprehensive demonstration of hidden authority and property ownership consequences that any ungrateful family member had ever experienced through systematic community intervention and residential consequences that protected neighborhood stability while teaching essential lessons about respect, character, and the reality that property ownership in quality communities requires ongoing demonstration of family values and social responsibility. Victoria said with the kind of condescending tone that revealed her systematic dehumanization of elderly family members and complete ignorance of the property ownership and community authority that determined her housing eligibility and social standing. "I think it's time for you to understand that Miguel and I are building a modern lifestyle that doesn't revolve around elderly needs and traditional obligations that interfere with professional advancement and social positioning." The conversation that followed would provide perfect documentation and the character failure and elderly disrespect that justified immediate implementation of the most severe consequences available through property ownership, authority, and community oversight that could transform comfortable assumptions about residential entitlement into devastating lessons about respect, community values, and the hidden systems that determine housing eligibility, and neighborhood access throughout Southern California's most desirable residential developments. The reality is, Victoria continued with growing confidence that revealed her comfortable assumption that elderly family members lacked any authority or influence that could affect her lifestyle choices and social positioning. That successful young couples need to prioritize relationships and activities that enhance their professional reputation and community standing, rather than spending time on elderly care and family obligations that don't provide measurable returns on investment or social advancement opportunity. The systematic character assassination that Victoria delivered while standing in my living room, surrounded by family photographs and cultural artifacts that documented decades of community involvement and family achievement, provided comprehensive evidence of the moral failures that threaten not only her own community membership, but also Miguel's continued eligibility for residence in neighborhoods that prioritized character development and intergenerational respect over material success and social positioning. Miguel has worked too hard and achieved too much to limit his potential by maintaining relationships that don't support his career objectives and lifestyle aspirations, Victoria said with obvious satisfaction, as she delivered what she assumed would be effective emotional manipulation, designed to justify systematic elderly exclusion and family relationship termination. It's time for him to focus on building the kind of social network and professional reputation that will enable continued advancement, rather than being held back by family members who don't understand modern business requirements and social expectation. Community involvement and family wisdom as obstacles that held Miguel back, rather than recognizing elderly guidance as valuable support for character development and life navigation, revealed her fundamental inability to understand the difference between authentic success and material accumulation. That prioritized social status over moral foundation and community contribution, that provided meaning and stability throughout life transitions and economic challenges. Besides, Victoria continued, her voice taking on the cruel satisfaction that characterizes people who enjoy exercising social power over individuals they perceive as vulnerable. Miguel needs to start understanding that his primary loyalty and emotional investment should be directed toward our relationship and our future, rather than maintaining connections with elderly relatives whose needs and expectations interfere with the kind of lifestyle and social positioning that successful couples require for continued advancement and community recognition. The threat implicit in Victoria's demand for primary loyalty revealed sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation and relationship control techniques designed to isolate partners from family support systems, while increasing dependence on approval and validation from the controlling individual who determined social access and lifestyle choices according to their preferences and strategic objectives, rather than mutual welfare and character development. But the moment that provided the final evidence necessary to implement immediate and comprehensive consequences occurred when Victoria delivered her ultimate dismissal of my role in Miguel's life and their community involvement. "Elena," she said with the kind of contemptuous authority that would haunt her for the rest of her life once she understood the scope of her miscalculation, "I need you to understand that you don't belong in our new house or our new life. We're building something modern and sophisticated that doesn't include elderly relatives who can't contribute to our social and professional objectives." The housewarming party that Victoria organized for March 22nd was designed to establish their social position within Westlake Village affluent community while systematically excluding elderly family members and demonstrating their commitment to professional networking over family loyalty and intergenerational respect. The guest list included Victoria's colleagues from luxury marketing firm Miguel's professional contacts from real estate development, and carefully selected neighbors whose approval could enhance their social standing within the community that they assumed provided permanent residence based on financial qualification
rather than ongoing character assessment and community compatibility. The event planning that Victoria coordinated emphasized contemporary luxury, professional sophistication, and the kind of social positioning that demonstrated material success, while systematically avoiding cultural elements, family tradition, or community involvement that might have revealed Miguel's heritage and family background in ways that could complicate their social image or require accommodation for elderly accessibility and cultural preferences that didn't align with their aesthetic choices and lifestyle aspirations. The catering selection, entertainment choices, and decoration themes that Victoria implemented reflected her determination to establish their home as a center for professional networking and social advancement, rather than family gathering and community connection that honored intergenerational relationships and cultural continuity. The absence of any family photographs, cultural artifacts, or traditional elements that might have indicated Miguel's background and family history demonstrated systematic erasure of identity and heritage that enabled social positioning according to contemporary affluent standards, rather than authentic cultural expression and family pride. The afternoon of March 22, as caterers and party rental companies transformed Miguel and Victoria's Westlake Village home into a showcase for professional networking and social positioning, I made the decision to attend their housewarming celebration as an uninvited guest who would provide comprehensive education about property ownership, community authority, and the consequences that follow when residential entitlement and social positioning develop without the character foundation necessary for sustainable community membership and property appreciation. The timing of my arrival at 4:30 p.m., 30 minutes after the official party's start time, ensured that Victoria's professional colleagues and social contacts would witness the systematic revelation of hidden authority and property ownership that would transform her comfortable assumptions about elderly irrelevance into the most expensive lesson about respect and community values ungrateful family member had ever received through direct confrontation with the property owner whose approval determined residential eligibility and community stand. The moment I walked through the front door of the Westlake Village home, that Victoria assumed represented her permanent residence and social headquarters, the conversation among party guests, approximately 40 young professionals, who represented exactly the kind of affluent, ambitious individuals that our character assessment protocols were designed to evaluate for community compatibility, immediately quieted as they observed an elderly woman in modest clothing entering what was obviously an exclusive social event for successful young professionals. Victoria's response to my uninvited appearance revealed the depth of contempt and social anxiety that characterized her attitude toward elderly family members, and her systematic fear that my presence would compromise her carefully constructed social image and professional reputation among the contacts whose approval she desperately sought for career advancement and lifestyle validation. "Elena," Victoria said with barely controlled anger as she quickly approached me near the entrance, obviously intending to minimize my visibility to her guests, while asserting her authority over the social event and home access. "I thought I made it clear that this party is for professional networking and community building that doesn't include elderly relatives. You need to leave immediately before you embarrass Miguel and damage the professional relationships we're trying to build." The assumption underlying Victoria's demand that she possessed authority to exclude elderly family members from a home and community where my approval determined residential eligibility provided the perfect opportunity to begin the systematic revelation that would educate her about property ownership, community governance, the reality that sometimes the people you dismiss as irrelevant obstacles actually control the entire infrastructure that determines your housing access and social opportunities. Victoria, dear, I replied with the patient tone that elderly wisdom provides when younger people demonstrate fundamental misunderstanding of authority structures and social dynamics. I think there might be some confusion about who belongs in this house and who has the authority to determine guest access and residential eligibility in Westlake Village community. The puzzled expression that crossed Victoria's face revealed her growing awareness that my response suggested knowledge and authority that contradicted her assumptions about elderly limitations and social irrelevance. While the attention that our conversation was attracting from party guests created exactly the kind of public education opportunity that would ensure comprehensive community awareness of the lesson about respect and character that was about to unfold. "What are you talking about?" Victoria demanded with increasing agitation, as she recognized that our conversation was being observed by the professional colleagues whose approval she sought for career advancement and social positioning. "This is our home, this is our party, and these are our guests. You have no authority or relevance here, and I'm asking you to leave immediately before you create problems for Miguel's professional reputation and our community's standing." The moment had arrived for the systematic revelation that would transform Victoria's comfortable assumptions about property ownership and residential entitlement into comprehensive education about the hidden systems that determine housing access and community membership throughout Southern California's most desirable residential developments. "Victoria," I said with gentle correction, that would begin her education about respect, authority, and the consequences that follow when social positioning develops without character foundation and community awareness. "I think you should meet the real owner of this house and this entire Westlake Village community." The silence that followed provided perfect documentation of the moment when comfortable assumptions about property ownership and residential entitlement collided with the reality of hidden authority and institutional control that determined housing access and community membership according to character assessment and family values, rather than simply financial qualification and social positioning. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the gathering of young professionals who had assumed they were attending a networking event in a privately owned home, "my name is Elena Rodriguez, and I am the founder, principal owner, and CEO of Meridian Property Holdings, the real estate development company that created this entire Westlake Village community, owns all 340 homes, including the residence where you're currently gathered, and determines residential eligibility based on character assessment and demonstrated commitment to family values and community responsibility." The comprehensive silence that greeted this announcement revealed the systematic shock that accompanies complete worldview destruction and the recognition that fundamental assumptions about reality were entirely wrong. The party guests, who had assumed they were networking in the private home of successful young professionals, suddenly realized they were standing in property owned by the elderly woman who had been dismissed as an irrelevant family burden. The beautiful home, where Victoria assumed she could exclude elderly family members, I continued, while observing the growing horror on her face as the scope of her miscalculation became apparent, is actually property, Unit 20, owned and managed by my company, according to residential agreements that require ongoing demonstration of character, family loyalty, and intergenerational respect as conditions for continued occupancy and community membership. Miguel's expression revealed his systematic processing of information that challenged every assumption about property ownership, family authority, and the support systems that had enabled his lifestyle and social positioning throughout his adult life. His struggle to comprehend that his professional success, residential access, and community standing depended entirely on approval from the elderly family member, whose wisdom and guidance Victoria had systematically dismissed, demonstrated the devastating irony of success built on hidden foundation that could be removed at any moment. "Miguel's sweetheart," I said with the patient explanation that elderly love provides when adult children finally demonstrate readiness to understand consequences and character development. "The mortgage financing that enabled your home purchase, the community amenities that enhance your lifestyle, and the property appreciation that protects your investment, all depend on continued compliance with character standards that require respect for elderly family members and demonstration of intergenerational loyalty that sustains community stability and property value. The explanation that followed would complete Victoria's education about property ownership, community authority, and the reality that sometimes the people you exclude from modern homes actually control the entire residential infrastructure that determines whether you have any home at all, and communities that prioritize character over material success and family values over social position. The character assessment protocols that determined your initial eligibility for residence in this community, I continued, while the party guests observed Victoria's systematic comprehension of her complete dependency on systems she had never suspected, include ongoing monitoring of family relationship patterns, elderly care decisions, and demonstrated commitment to intergenerational respect that maintains neighborhood stability and property appreciation through social cohesion and mutual support. The policy documentation that I retrieved from my purse and placed on their granite kitchen countertop provided immediate visual confirmation of the residential agreements, character requirements, and community standards that governed their occupancy and determined their continued eligibility for property access and neighborhood membership, and developments that required demonstration of family values and elderly respect. The systematic exclusion of elderly family members from social activities, I explained, while Victoria's professional colleagues observed her growing awareness that her career advancement and social positioning meant nothing if she lacked housing and community access, represents exactly the kind of character failure that justifies immediate residential review and potential property forfeiture, that protects community standards while providing education about respect and family loyalty. The community liaison coordinator, who arrived 20 minutes later, Sarah Martinez, whose character assessment reports had documented the escalating problems with Victoria's influence on Miguel's family relationships, brought the official notice of residential review and the temporary occupant suspension that would provide Victoria with comprehensive education about the difference between property ownership and residential privilege that required ongoing character demonstration and community compatibility. Miguel and Victoria. Sarah announced to the gathering of shocked party guests who were witnessing the most comprehensive lesson about character and consequences that any Westlake Village resident had ever received. This notice initiates a 30-day character assessment review that will determine your continued eligibility for residence in this community, based on demonstrated family values, elderly respect, and commitment to intergenerational harmony that maintains neighborhood standards and property appreciation. The mortgage suspension notice, that arrived by certified courier 30 minutes later, informed Miguel that his housing payments would be held in escrow pending character assessment completion. While the Homeowners Association membership suspension eliminated their access to community amenities and neighborhood services that had previously provided lifestyle enhancement and social positioning that supported their professional image and community standing. The character rehabilitation program that I offered Miguel and Victoria as an alternative to immediate property forfeiture and community exclusion provided them with opportunities to learn about respect, family loyalty, and the community values that sustained long-term property ownership and neighborhood membership through demonstrated character and intergenerational commitment, rather than simply financial qualification and social position. The community service requirements included 60 hours monthly of direct assistance to elderly residents throughout Westlake Village and surrounding communities, providing them with practical experience in elderly care and respect that could rebuild their understanding of wisdom and the valuable contributions that aging family members provide through guidance, support, and cultural knowledge that enriches community life and family relationships. The family relationship counseling component required weekly sessions with specialists in intergenerational communication, cultural heritage preservation, that could address the character failures that had threatened their community membership, while building skills in elderly respect and family loyalty that honored wisdom and experience alongside individual achievement and professional advancement. The community involvement obligations included participation and neighborhood programming, elderly support services, and cultural celebration events that could restore their connection to values and relationships that sustained community membership, while providing opportunities to contribute to collective welfare rather than focusing exclusively on individual advancement and social position. But perhaps the most significant consequence was the property ownership transfer that redirected Miguel and Victoria's housing equity to a community trust fund that supports affordable housing development and elderly care services throughout Southern California, ensuring that their investment contributes to community welfare, while teaching them that true success requires demonstration of character and family values, rather than simply accumulating material assets and social status. The story of how a cruel fiancé learned that dismissing elderly family members from modern homes could cost her the dream house she thought she owned became the most expensive lesson about respect and community values that any ungrateful relative had ever received. Sometimes the most powerful education you can provide manipulative family members is understanding that elderly wisdom and property ownership aren't optional conveniences that disappear when they become inconvenient for social positioning and lifestyle aspirations. Victoria's assumption that she could exclude me from their house because I didn't belong in modern homes transformed into the devastating recognition that she was the one who didn't belong in communities that prioritized character over social status and family loyalty over individual advancement. The elderly woman she dismissed as irrelevant turned out to own not just their house, but their entire community, teaching her that respect for aging family members isn't just moral obligation, it's practical necessity for anyone who wants to maintain housing access and community membership. Neighborhoods where character determines eligibility and family values matter more than professional networking and material success. Remember, property ownership and community membership, built on genuine character and intergenerational respect, create foundations for lasting success and authentic achievement, while exploitation and elderly dismissal destroy not only family bonds but also the moral foundation necessary for sustainable community relationships and property ownership that honors wisdom and experience alongside innovation and individual advancement that serves collective welfare and family prosperity across generations.